You look at Admara, 3,271 applied. So you also see that the youth are beginning to trust government to say, we have this program. Can you apply? Flip the next slide. So in a way, also bridging that trust, distrust, we're bridging it. You go to Abia, for instance. Are we on the Abia page? 3,252 applied. Only 89 were successful. You go to Ekiti, 2,591 applied. It's just to give a sense of the fact that every single state benefited. But also we saw in Akwa Ibom, 5,594 youth applied. Only 94 were allocated. The next slide. And then we also broke it down to know what were they trained on. In the north, in the south, so you see green stimulus, we see Digital Youth Nigeria, we see the work experience program. The next page, please. We'll move quicker. So the next page, please, it just gives you an idea of the spread. Right, entrepreneurship. When you look at the first slide on deal, the major ticket item to deliver on entrepreneurship was the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund. Let me say this as an aside. There's been no country in the world that has solved its youth unemployment problem without a deliberate policy of turning its youth, of turning our youth into entrepreneurs. So we thanked Mr. President in July last year, approved the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund to the tune of 75 billion naira, 25 billion naira per year, 2020 to 2023. The next slide gives details about what is this Youth Investment Fund. It explains the processes that you have to go through. Most of this information are in the public space. Most of them are. The next slide. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. So far, only 2.9 billion naira has been disbursed under the CBN NISA route. That is, the CBN was asked to provide an initial funding so that we can get it started quickly. Of course, we have the 25 billion naira approved by Mr. President, and in the next 1 week or so, we should be able to draw the first 5 billion that we will use to pay our 25 to 30,000. Now, you can see on this side, you have the full data. Total applications received so far for NYF, 3.3 million. Total cumulative approval, 7,000. Total disqualified, 282. Unqualified, 721. Total qualified applicants, 6,050. So far, we've disbursed 5,285. Those undisbursed is because their BVN is either wrong or we send money to them, it doesn't go in. Some of our youth also rejected the loan, saying it was not up to the amount they expected. Some said, no, we're not going to pay interest. Some said, look, we don't even need it. So, the next slide, please. We see testimonials from those that have benefited from it. Up on the corner is the day we launched it officially here at the banquet hall, alongside about 10 or 11 ministers that joined me to launch it. On that day, we also gave awards to the winners of our app challenge. About 10 youth got 1 million naira each. Another set of 7 or 8 got 500,000 each for participating in our competition. Now, we've decided that next slide, we're going to be evidence-based. I spend a lot of time on social media deliberately, and because we saw that the same pattern where people benefit from government policies and don't say a word about it. So we say, well, we'll start publishing the names of those that benefited from this. And there was a bit of complaint earlier that people were not benefiting. But when we started publishing in batches of 500 and 1,000, the 5,000 plus people that have benefited, we took out the sensitive information. But you can see, this is evidence-based. We have the BVN, monies was paid into the account from 1.5 million to 3 million to 2 million. And I think that there's been no program of government that has delivered for our youth to place them on the path of entrepreneurship. Again, we thank Mr. President for this opportunity. Entrepreneurship, next slide. That's the Conga MOU that we signed, and I'm sure that the man with bald head, I think his bald head gives him away. That is Xenox, Leostan AK. He's been a worthy partner. I talked about the beneficiaries of NYF or our app challenge, 500,000 each. They collected their money right here. I spoke about Titan, which is going around the country and having the youth pitch their programs. And once they finish, 1,000 of them will benefit automatically. 60-60, which then I spoke about nowhere. Next slide. That's it. That's the screenshot of our website. It's called Nigeria Online Youth Assembly. Please, next slide. You recall that 2 weeks ago, we had the first ever National Youth Conference here in Abuja. We decided to use one of our facilities, the stadium, but also use the velodrome. The velodrome is an architectural masterpiece, the second best on the continent. And it's delegate-based, 10 delegates from every state of the Federation. Interestingly, every single state delivered 10 delegates to us. So we had full participation of all the states. But beyond that, we also had participating youth delegates from youth organizations across the country. We had planned to have just about 500. We ended up with about 800 youth participating on 2 days, 2.5 days. The focus, we had 3 thematic areas. The next slide. The overall focus was youth inclusiveness through education, innovation, technology, the soft power of sports, entertainment and creatives, politics, nation building, unity, peace and security. Those are the thematic areas. The next slide. It shows you just pictures of what happened. At the end of it, the youth put forward 21 resolutions. We call it Youth Resolutions for Action. Those resolutions are awaiting ratification. And once they are ratified, I will be able to present that to Mr. President alongside a number of youth representatives. We had a number of youth ambassadors who worked actively. You can see some of them. Next slide. All right. So in a capsule, that's youth development. And you know, I know I'm under the hammer for time, but sports, I see some people are slightly more alert now. Am I right? Thank you. Sports development. From the onset, I tried to make a distinction. What is sports development? I found that in the past, sports development simply meant there's World Cup this year. You prepare for World Cup. You play the World Cup. You go to sleep. 1 year to the next World Cup start. There's Commonwealth Games. 6 months. You prepare. There is All Africa Games. You prepare. There's Olympics. That's been the rubric of a sports development, I dare say. But real sport development is a continuum. It's our grassroots. And when we check the national sports policy, that is exactly what it said. So we decided to go back to that sports policy and say, we will do grassroots sports development. And I often say, the gold is in the child. When you see the Williams sisters winning gold all over the place, the journey to that goal started when they were young kids, when their father was taking them to the courts. So we don't expect to have the Williams sisters in this country unless we start grooming them from the start. So we decided to focus on grassroots youth development. We have 2 major games every year. The first one is the National Youth Games. We've had it for 7 years in a row. It brings in almost 10,000 youth from across the country. They converge for about 7 to 8 days. They compete in 38 different sports. The last one was held 3 weeks ago in Ilorin. We ended up with about 328 talents. I was so excited about a deaf boy who won the 100 meters race, won the 200 meters race, and won the 400 meters race. Now, it should not stop there, because you must now take up this talent and groom them. And what we've done is we developed a talent hunt program that will capture these young ones as they are, put them on a path of scholarship, it's just some kind of educational subsidy. Also be there to sponsor them to continental events, but eventually feed them to the federations. The sporting federations have a responsibility to develop these people over time, working with the ministry, and then we can eventually unleash them on the world. So we've had the National Youth Games. The next National Youth Games will be next year, and Kano will be hosting the National Youth Games. When I came in, we had the All-African Games, which held in Casablanca. We ended up second. We won 127 medals. We also reactivated the Awesome Games. The Awesome Games is for the armed forces. You recall in the past years, the Chuma, Jungas, and the rest, the police and the armed forces supplied some of our best sprinters, and we felt we needed to go back to that. So Awesome Games, we brought it back so that we can harvest talent in almost every segment of our society. The Principal's Cup, dead for 25 years. The strength of our football, the Degbamis of this world, Amokachi, George Finidi, they all came through the Adebayo Principal's Cup. What happened? We walked away from it. So we don't have that incubator football process. And we've been struggling getting, local football talents, and they are bound. So we say we're bringing, and then we rechristened it the National Principal's Cup. We did a dry run this year with about 250 schools. The finals was played here. You can see some of the excitement. The second one will start before the end of the year. We'll have about 3,500 secondary schools participating, and the finals will be played hopefully in Abuja or Lagos. The Ed Sports Festival. The pandemic almost did us in. 3 times postponed. Eventually we pulled it off without a single COVID-19 pandemic. And I think a lot of credit goes to the host state, Edo State. A lot of credit goes to the staff of the Ministry of Youth and Sport. A lot of credit goes to the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. A single COVID-19 death or casualty. And with more than 9,000, close to 10,000 athletes, and we saw them really shine. Long distance and middle distance. We see Kenya. They win all the gold medals. We decided that we're going to resuscitate, and we had the first boot camp sometime so in Mambila sports equipment and sports merchandise. So, the next slide. This policy is predicated on the 3 I's, 3 pillars. You can't have sports industry or sports as business without this. It's the same all over the world. You need what they call infrastructural rationalization. Without infrastructure, you can't talk sports. Not just the brick and mortar, but also the equipment for training, the latest equipment, a high-performance center, digital equipment, and the rest. So we have investment. There must be massive investment on the part of government and also the public sector. And then you have incentives. There must be incentives. I met Elijah Aliko Dangote severally. I challenged him, why are you buying Arsenal? Why are you not buying Kano Pillars? I wanted to drive the point home. And he says, look, I'm a businessman. Where is the ROI? I'm looking beyond just the run that ball they play. Where is the return on investment? When I invest my money. So we've built something in terms of incentives that will convince a Dangote not to buy Arsenal, but to buy Kano Pillars. That will convince another person not to take his $1 or $2 or $3 million into buying clothes or textiles, to say, look, let me put it in developing a youth sports center because there's a business model, the government will give me incentives, etc., etc. That policy is now sitting draft. The final draft is sitting with Ministry of Justice, and as soon as they take care of the legal aspects of it, we'll be able to deliver and bring it to council, and hopefully we'll get its approval. But let me say, there's an approval already, there's an acceptance. When we had the ARPG, sports did not have a seat at the table. Sports development got 0. But because of the work we've done in 18 months, and then the reclassification of sports into business, the National Development Plan that was approved last week, Wednesday, for the first time allocated 88 billion naira to sports development in 4 years. But we didn't leave sports alone. We also did something for youth. And the youth development also got 60 billion naira. So the successor plan to the ARPG has sports at the table, but also getting about 2.5 to 3% of the total money that's going on. We're excited about that because part of that money is going to come from government, part of it will come from the private sector. For a sector that has never had any special funding before, 88 billion is a revolution. Next slide. Okay, let's say initiatives. Faster than here. Okay, that's good. Okay, initiatives. Other sports. We talked about the Adopt an Athlete campaign. We call it the Adopt campaign. It has three flavors: adopt an athlete, adopt a sport, adopt a pitch. And we try to make a differentiation. Next slide. What we had before was what we call an Adopt program that was Boost. Totally different from the Adopt program that we had or that we have. The flavors are distinct and different. Next slide. What have been the deliverables? Let me start with Adopt a facility. And I know we've waited so long. The Moshood Abiola Stadium, we know how it's been. 10 years, the ministry has struggled to maintain it. We got Aliko Dangote. That's the way it was before. The scoreboard completely out, done. That's the pitch as of today. We hope that before the end of this month, the Dangote Group will hand over officially the Moshood Abiola Stadium. We have the latest digital scoreboard already in place. Most of the journalists have been there. And it was a joy for me to take the FIFA president there. Stepped on the grass, looked at and he said, yeah, this stadium is ready. We're going to bring matches here. That has been able to, that was made possible by the Adopt initiative that we had. Secondly, take me to Surulere. That's Surulere. The first slide shows the way it is. It doesn't really, this picture doesn't even tell the story. It was worse than this. The middle slide shows the complete dismantling of the 35-year-old scoreboard. It took so much time and energy to break it apart. But we have the latest scoreboard that will be installed. The process has started. And then the last slide shows the pitch coming back, the sprinklers, the water system, and the rest. After 19 years of complete abandonment, we got another businessman and philanthropist, Adebutu Keshintin, to do this. The previous slide, that's the Daura Township Stadium. That's what we made 2 years ago, like a desert ground. After 1 year and 2 months, we delivered one of the best AstroTurf pitch for Daura Township Stadium. I visited Daura. I found that they had 42 youth football clubs, and each of them waited within the Emirates, the Daura Emirate Council, 42 youth football clubs, privately owned, and waited upon one another to be able to use the pitch. We've delivered this pitch to them, and that's going to be a model of the other similar pitches we're going to deliver for our youth. Adoption. We decided that we needed to give our athletes some kind of financial succor. Normally they wait until they compete and they win. So adoption, $10,000 to home-based, $20,000 to foreign-based. 45 athletes collected the money. Money paid directly into the account. If the account is not in your name, it never comes to you. The next slide. Now, you see the names of all of them. All the athletes have benefited directly from the Adopt an Athlete initiative. A total of 520,000 US dollars. Next slide. I'm glad we've done those slides before. Okay. Run through. Okay, I'm almost through. Next slide. Okay. Initiative, Hall of Fame, of course, is there. It's opening up. We needed to work on it. The 60 sporting icons. Taken to NSC, the Nigerian National Sports Commission. The ministry has worked with the Senate Committee on Youth and Sports Development. We've had 2 public hearings. We believe strongly that the National Sports Commission should return. A new structure, a new orientation, benchmarked against similar. When you go to Sierra Leone, you have the National Sports Authority. It works very well. You also have the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The federations report to Sports Authority. The federations enjoy financial independence. The federations every year renew their operational license with the ministry and the authority. The federations only come to government when the athletes are submitted to the federal government to go and represent the country. We are going to return our sports development and federations to this path as soon as we have the National Sports Commission, so that our sporting federations can raise their money, be accountable to their board, leave government resources alone, but when it's time to go to the Olympics, we know the number of athletes you have, and then we pay. And that's going to solve a lot of problems. We hope that before the first quarter of next year, we're going to be able to deliver this, and that hopefully Mr. President will assent to the return of the National Sports Commission. I've talked about the grassroots development program. Flip through, you can see the young girl. Most of us have seen this. What's her name again? Shekinat. We finally got her into one of the Unity schools. Her education is going on. We can see the fish. He says he wants to run in the Olympics and win gold for Nigeria. The Yakubu sisters, just like the Williams sisters. I think we just funded them to another tournament about 2 weeks ago. We see Sultan, a terrific boxer at 12. We want to keep an eye on him. And we see gymnastics. This girl lives in Abuja. She's been to my office. I've seen her. She's one of the best I've seen. And we're supporting her very closely. Chess. We have Ele the champ. You can read that story. We'll keep an eye on that. Then we have the flyer. Oh, is that not, who's this? The flyer? Okay, good. Welfare, quickly. I'll take the rest in a couple of minutes. We had the COVID-19. We decided to raise about 11 million. We shared it to 250 athletes to help them with their welfare. We've also decided that we will, in our little way, support the families of some of our late heroes. That list will grow longer soon. Rashid Yakini's mother, Tamukuraji's mother who died recently, Ali Jeje, his wife, Sunday Bada's mother, on and on. We've also supported others. You can see their names: Kaduri Kana, Sunday Aboige, Jerry Okurududu, who we're trying to see what we can do for him now because his case has grown worse. Ike Makariwe, a basketballer who we spent $32,000 to fix her leg. She's one of our best female basketballers right now. And then Funke Ashanaike, table tennis. The next slide, please. We've also been able to help 2 of our young athletes, hugely talented, to get scholarships, and then we'll put them on the plane, paying for their tickets and support in the U.S. The next slide. Achievements. I'll speak to them quickly and then I'll ramp up this session. For the first time in a long time, we decided to triple the bonuses for our athletes. The federal government tripled the bonuses. But also we moved away from giving them just Naira to giving them dollars. Because when you check online, you will see about 28 countries and what they give their athletes. And they are paid in dollars. So our 2 Olympians at the Olympics, we paid them 3 times the amount they earn, and we paid them instantly. Paralympians who won 10 medals, less than 8 weeks after they came, we paid them bonuses. $15,000 for gold. It's never happened before. $10,000 for silver, $7,500 for bronze. About $165,000 paid to the 10 medalists. In 6 weeks, this country went through 3 international global events. We went to the Olympics. In spite of all, we won 2 medals. The best performance in 30 years. We have data to show that. We also have a list of 9 achievements that we made, that we've never made as a country at the Olympics. Then we went to the World Athletics Junior Championships in Nairobi, Kenya. The country's best performance ever. We came back with 7 medals, placed Nigeria 3rd in the global map when it comes to junior athletics. And then I spoke to Paralympics. The next slide. We have the winning bonuses that I talked about. You can see the athletes. You can see where they competed. You can see how much went into their account. Every single athlete has gotten this money. Yes, we still have a few outstanding. We have a balance of $2,000 to pay about 54 athletes. And that's because I increased the allowances from $3,500 to $6,000 at the Olympic. So we have to come back, rework our budget, and raise that money. We're almost there. The $2,000 remaining for 54 of our athletes will be paid. As we speak, $4,000 has been paid to all of them. So we've seen an effort deliberately on the part of government to bring value to athletes, but also not just to speak it, but also to act it by making sure that we reward them for their sacrifice and for what they do for our country. The next slide, I talked about 10 different achievements at the Olympics in athletics, in badminton, in basketball, canoeing, gymnastics, rowing, swimming. The details are there. The next slide shows you the trajectory of our Olympic performance. We see the height of it between 1998, 1988, 1992. We hit the climax in 1996. We see a sharp descent in 2000, came down in 2004, went up in 2008, dropped badly in 2012, and then started an upward trajectory in 2026. And in 2021, we push it further. When you look at this graph where you see that the performance we had at the Olympics is the best we've had in 13 years. The next slide. The next slide. The next slide. AfroBasket, 3 times winner, a record. The next slide. Last slide. Stay tuned for the video. Thank you.
It will take a while to come up. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that wonderful presentation. At this juncture, we'll take the questions. We'll take a first set of 4 questions. Then, after the Honorable Minister and his team handle that one, then we'll go to the second set. Okay, I'll start with my nearest person here, Stephen, Dr. Leon, yourself, and then Gloria. Then the next set will take those ones. I'll start with you, Stephen.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that briefing. My question is straight around the issue of... Okay, I'm Stephen Angbulu. I write for the Punch newspapers. Sorry about that. My question is stringed around the issue of trust, where you mentioned that your ministry is working really hard to bridge the trust between the government and the youth. Now, we understand that many Nigerian youths at the moment feel quite betrayed based on the report of the JPIs recently published. And we want to know what your ministry is doing in that regard to build this trust back, more like to heal the process back again, to bring them to trust the government with information and also other issues. And the issue of trust again, where Nigerian athletes, we've seen issues where Nigerian athletes go to participate in the Olympics for other countries. And you've mentioned that your ministry is doing a good job, even up tripling the bonuses of athletes and even paying bonuses, huge bonuses.
in its obligations. And so one of the consequences of that was that our Tokyo Olympics athletes resorted to using wash and wear jerseys. I think you can recall one viral video of one of the athletes in Japan washing his jersey so that he could be ready for his next event. So my question is, what did you do afterwards? After the cancellation of that contract, what did you do? How many officials that were responsible for that were held accountable? And if you don't mind, you could give us an update on the money the national basketball players said were diverted rather than paid to them. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Harry Awurumibe. I write for Prompt News. Honorable Minister, my question is just one simple one. When will our national teams have their own ground? Specifically, the Super Eagles of late have been like an orphan begging to understand where they will play the next match. And I must commend you for the stadium you've done. I've written in the recent times, in the past 3 months, 2 exclusive stories of Abuja, MKO Abiola Stadium. Fantastic. And I have to praise you that the pitch out there. The pure dynasty Paspalium is the best, the one that is going to be used in Qatar 2022. Now, when will the Super Eagles play on that pitch? Thank you.
Channel television. Can you confirm real quick the status of Gernot Rohr, the Super Eagles coach? Has he been sacked or asked to resign? Thank you.
Okay, let's take the floor.
Thank you very much for your very important questions. I thank you for your questions. I'll take it from the first question from the Punch newspapers. The issue of public trust and where the needle stands is something that almost everybody is aware of. It is not something that is common only to Nigeria. When you have the interface between government and people, no matter the segment, every government tries to deliver and also try to breach public trust. I cannot speak for the assignment I've been given when it comes to the sporting audience and also the youth audience. And part of what I said was that very often when we see MTN advertise and say we have opportunities for graduates, 500 graduates to intern or to do a course, we see over 10, 20 million youth apply because they trust MTN. So we looked at that model and said, well, we found that most people don't really trust government programs. We did an audit and we found that 42 different youth-focused programs in the last 6 years under the administration of President Muhammad Buhari. Most of these programs domicile in 7 different ministries and 12 different parastatals. We tried to see how many of our youth know about it. Most of them know about it, but will not apply themselves to the application process because they don't believe they can benefit from it. So we decided to make a difference. We're going to change the onboarding process of our youth to our programs and see whether they will respond. And that we work with data and facts. Part of the slide I showed, we did a national template, looked for the best tabula rasa where the youth can engage. And we saw the massive number of those that applied across the country. From that data alone, the needle has gone up. And we can now see that if you make your process transparent, if you engage the youth on the platforms where they are all the time, the information gets to them, the awareness is there, then more youth will embrace government programs and will ultimately benefit from it. You look at the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund. When we opened our portal, close to 4 million Nigerian youth applied. That is some level of trust. It's never been done before. And our WEP program, which is 3 months, we're struggling because when we opened our platform, 81,000, and we have the data, 81,000 youth applied. At a point, our website crashed, and then we stopped because we didn't have the funding. I can't speak for the one-year Jubilees program, WEP, but I've seen the level of interest. So it's going to be brick by brick in terms of the programs we put forward, because for the youth, the engagement with government is about opportunities, is about transparency, is about trust. And I think that on that path, we want to stay on that path and see what further we can do. You talked about our athletes that run for the country, and I can tell you in 30 seconds, I engaged with 2 of them at the Olympics. And I asked them, what will make you come to run for Nigeria? Because these are stars. And he says, there are 5 things that the country I'm running for gives me. If you can deliver 3 for me, I'll come to Nigeria. What are these things? Full-time education scholarship, full boarding, health insurance, training facility, and the third one, I think, is a grant. He said, these are the 5 things I enjoy. If you can give me 3 of them. So what has this government done? I told him, we are already on the path of that. I'll talk about scholarship. The NOC through the IOC. Toby Amusan, more than 11 of our athletes that you see out there have been enjoying full scholarship from the IOC, International Olympic Committee, facilitated by the NOC, working in conjunction with the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The information and the data is there. What do you want to do differently? Find a way to increase of them year in, year out on this scholarship. At the level of the ministry, you saw 2 of the athletes that we sent. The youngest athlete that won 4 gold in Nairobi, she's been supported to some extent by the ministry. The young talents we're finding, we're placing them on some level of scholarship. I don't want to mention the amount. But also, there's also sports support. If they have to compete anywhere in Africa, we're able to buy their tickets, pay for their boarding, support their parents to follow them, because the role of the parent is very important. The final part of it is that when the sports industry policy is eventually delivered, we are building a sports development fund from where they can draw grants, they can draw scholarship funds, and can also support the development of our youth. Tribune, Doctor, thank you for your questions. The Puma deal, there's been so much about the Puma deal out there. Right now, as we speak, there's a court case going on at the Abuja Magistrate Court. Before we got there, there was a full police investigation by the IG of the Puma deal. Out of that investigation, what came out led to the court case. So to a very large extent, I'm limited on my comment on that. In that court case, it is between the AFN and Do and Puma. The ministry has no role whatsoever in the contract that took place with Puma. I can't comment beyond that because the case is ongoing. On the issue of the wash and wear, it's really unfortunate because what was portrayed was not only orchestrated, it was deliberate, it was planned and executed to embarrass the ministry and government. How many people washed their wares? But that's beside the point. We have 2 categories of wares. We have the general wear that Team Nigeria wears. Every athlete going to compete in our colors is allocated the general wares. The ministry procures that wear. It's been like that even before I came. Then we have the competition wear. These are specialized wares. So what a boxer or a wrestler will need as a competition gear is different from what an athlete will need. So what do? Government allocates an amount of money to each federation to get the correct wear for their athletes. So we have asked the AFN, we have our report, we've taken certain steps, but competition wear is solely the responsibility of the federations. On our part, government on its part has provided the money. As we go to the Commonwealth, every federation that is taking athletes to the Commonwealth, we equally get an amount of money to go and procure specialized gear for their athletes. Basketball players, I'm surprised that question is coming up because there's been quite a lot of response. Within 10 hours of that claim, we had CBN release a bank statement that showed that the $230,000, which we raised under the Adopt Athlete program, it showed the day it entered the CBN account and showed that the day it was printed, the money was fully intact, not a dime. Now, you run an institution, you must give that institution the benefit of its processes. We went to Olympics, we said the two teams should provide their bank accounts. We needed 24 bank accounts. We got 12. Central Bank said, look, these are foreign accounts. We need to have all of the accounts because of the processes to transfer this money. So we had to wait for the male basketball team. After 6 weeks, the ministry went back and said, well, listen, we're not sure we're going to get the other 12 accounts soon. Can you go ahead? It was within that week we had that. No money was diverted. When that money was raised, I made sure that that money was put in the NFF domiciliary account, which had never been used. MBBF domiciliary account with the CBN. So there's a footprint of that money coming in. Footprints are there. I also made sure that it's not money that can be touched except by my approval or the approval of the permanent secretary. So how that kind of money be diverted? It's not possible. When you lodge monies with the CBN, it's almost impossible. You will find the footprint. So that money has been processed. $9,500 has gone to each of our female basketball players. I have evidence of it. We've not heard about the fact that this money has gone in. They have been fully paid. The balance of that money meant for the male basketball players is still sitting in that same account. It's not an interest yielding account. That money cannot be used for any other purpose than for the athletes for which it was donated. Let me establish a single principle. The principle behind Adopt an Athlete is simple and is fast. That when donations come under that Adopt an Athlete, the money must be used for the purpose for which it was donated. It can only go to the athlete. So in a sense, it's ring-fenced. So the balance is there. No money was diverted. Clear evidence shows and facts show that no money was diverted. And we've paid the female basketballers $9,500. The one for the male is there. Anytime they submit their banking details to the CBN, I can assure you they will get their money. The third question is on the national team. When will they have their national ground? I think you have your answer. The national Moshood Abiola National Stadium, as we speak, by or not before the end of this month, will be handed over officially. We've had quite a number of test runs. The pitch will be eventually, they will cut it, and I don't know the term for it. But we hope that as soon as we have that, it is Moshood Abiola National Stadium. That becomes, without question, that becomes the home pitch of the Super Eagles. If eventually Surulere comes on, then we're lucky. That means they have two home pitches, because in football, there is the home advantage. I was speaking to Sunday Olise. He said if he plays in this stadium here in Abuja or Surulere, he knows that if he sends a pass, he knows where he's going to bounce once and then flatten up and come to him, or he bounces twice. There's a connection between the footballer, the ball, and the pitch. It's critical. And no nation that has a team, and the team plays in 5 different pitches, that will really enjoy the game. So I think we're there. We're almost there. Abuja will be ready. And then once it's ready, there's no question. Our national matches will play there. Lagos will be ready. Once it's ready, that will happen. Did I answer your question? So that means you should have more information than me. Yeah, but I was there last week with a couple of former footballers. We met the people there and they said, look, before the end of the month, we'll hand it over to you. Once it's handed over, we have to now wait for the Super Eagles to have an engagement before they can come and play. But I think that will suffice. And thank you for your interest, even talking to the horticulturists. And that is important because we have a 2-year maintenance plan, and there's a nursery already. The nursery is there so that the grass can come in and can be used in case it's needed. The last question, was that all? The fourth one. I'm not sure I had the last question. Gloria. Is that Gloria? I know the question. Let me say this before I'm good. The Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, as we speak, is waiting. Once we have national matches like a standard operating procedure, first, the NFF will receive a technical report that analyzes the game. And based on that, it will be subject to review and scrutiny, benchmarked, and thereafter they take a decision, either about the players, either about the coaching staff or the technical crew. The ministry is waiting for that report from the NFF. What the report will contain, what it will recommend, I cannot say precisely. But if you allow me, I'll give the mic for a minute. I think that's where we are. I'm not sure it's going to tell anything different. Before the end of the week, we'll have that report, and that report will touch on many areas. We know what the concerns are. We know what the worries are. The Super Eagles must qualify for Qatar 2020. We know the power of football, and we will do whatever is necessary. We will make whatever amends is required. We'll be timely about it to make sure that Nigeria's football is of the highest quality and will play in Qatar. Because the president's charge is clear. When the FIFA president came, at the end of the president's speech, he said, "Mr. President, see you in Qatar." We'll get there.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Raliet Dineko from Classic FM and The Beat, Abuja. My question is actually to NYSC DG. There's been so many calls for the revamp or the cancellation of NYSC, the scheme entirely. And with regards to the maltreatment of core members across the country, what are you doing to actually ensure that the core members are treated specially? One of the core members who transferred from Borno State has just was one of the victims of the Lagos collapse. What are you doing to ensure welfare of core members is actually guaranteed? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport. My name is Yemi Adebayo from AIT. My first question is, since you took over as the Minister of Youth and Sport 2 years ago, have you been able to identify the reasons why we do have poor preparations ahead of local or international competitions? I'm asking this question because Qatar 2022 is coming up, and you find out that the Super Eagles, up to now, the preparation is still somehow shaky as we speak. That's my first question. Then secondly, You discover that most Nigerians prefer to watch European League rather than watch our own local league here. I want to find out from you, since you took over, what efforts are you putting in place as the minister to develop our own game, our own local league, to be up to standard, if not up to standard with the ones in the European that we watch almost.
Yes, Yemi, those two questions should be okay, thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to take a bit of a bypass, but I'll take a stab. Then the DGNYC and the General Secretary of NFF will answer because I think that will help to give you a direct insight. Let me speak on the NYC, and I've spoken about it before, that the cancellation of the scheme at this point of our country's experience and national development will be like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The contribution of the NYC scheme to national development and national unity has been audited, can be audited. The impact it has made on the lives of our youth. In our communities, we have communities that basically just wait for youth corpers every year to come and help them with their health facilities. Doctors, youth corper doctors who work for free and selflessly. We have the CDS program, multiple projects in most of our communities across the country are projects done by our youth corpers. And I don't want to talk about the soft side of the NYC, marriages, long-time friendships, and the rest. So as a ministry and government, what is the interest? We have started a gradual review, looking at the entire scheme and looking at areas in which we need to have a rethink, to make adjustments, to make it better. That's what happens to programs. You don't throw them out. This the largest single concentration of Nigerian youth annually, 320,000, is the NYC. And when you audit their contributions in various spheres of our lives, there are organizations, there are communities that would not survive without an input of youth corpus. But I think the experience, the experiential aspect of that one-year national service. And when you look at other countries, they don't call it NYC, but quite a number of them, even in the UK, there are similar services exist. So we'll try to make ours better. And I'll leave the DG to respond to the feedback on that question. The other question about our preparations, and you zeroed down on football. So I'm going to leave NFF to answer that. But let me say something about EPL. What we are focused on is how to make our league better, the Premier League especially. We have also seen that other leagues that have survived have paid attention to three major things. First, football development and such leagues are content stupid. No matter how good your football league is, if you don't have content on television, you can't grow. Why do we watch EPL? Because there's content. There's live content. We even enjoy delayed broadcast. We also see the quality of content. It brings Wembley into our homes and offices. So we've been working through NFF to make sure that we bring content on multiple platforms, online, social media websites, and even on our television. And I know that process has started. So content is important. We must bring content back. Go back 30 years ago, we could watch all our matches online, on television, black and white, then colored. Second, unless you have a licensing and financial regime that is enforced to the letter, you cannot have a league that thrives and survives. What is this regime? The regime, when it comes to finances, that no player can be owed more than 1 month's salary. So the salaries for the players for 1 year must be there. The facilities needed for licensing in terms of stadia, in terms of ambulances, health insurance, must be there. But we also realize that where you have 80% of our clubs in the hands of government, you also need a disciplined administration to handle the organization of club football along the lines of football, business. So unless we have our football as business, with a business orientation, we cannot get to where EPL is. Have efforts started? Yes. Do we need to accelerate those efforts? Absolutely. But let me just say that for now, and let me have the NYSC DG respond.
The Honourable Minister, Senior Special Advisor to President of Media and other senior specialists on here, members of the Fifth Estate of the Rim. I know the Honourable Minister said when he was able to commence his presentation that opportunity will be given to the Director General to say something about the NYSC. I wish I finished making my presentation before your questions start coming to me. Probably by the time I finish, I would have addressed your question. However, as we are talking now, we have what we call NYSC Core Employers Stakeholders Meeting. It's ongoing right now. This is where we have the opportunity to rub minds with our core employers where issues of this nature are discussed, and then we'll fine-tune to ensure that such thing does not repeat itself. On the issue of the core member that relocated, he was posted to Borno State. And once you have your genuine reasons for relocation, it is granted. And she applied, and the genuine reason was given, and on that basis she was relocated to Lagos. You know, it is always appeal to core members that wherever you are posted to, you accept your posting in good faith and then serve your country. But faith, which we cannot see, played out. We pray that the Almighty God will have mercy on her soul and others that they pay the price on that collapsed building. But I can assure you, we do interface with our core employers, and we do really ask them that under no condition that you grant permission to core members without our knowledge. Because core employers have the right to grant permission to core members to travel. Because in the process, you made them inactive, and they perambulate about, and they will have issues of accident and other challenges. This will throw them. Under no condition should they maltreat our core members. And once you do so, such core employers are blacklisted. And this is what we have been doing. And it's very important from the fallout of the meeting we are holding, which we are going to conclude today, we will ensure that we implement the resolution for that meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for allowing me to talk on the issue of preparations for our national teams. I want to say that preparations are seen in three perspectives: the long-term plan, the medium-term plan, and the short-term plan. The person who asked question is probably looking at the short-term plan. If you go memorably, you will see that anytime we are planning for emergency sporting activity, we make sure that we utilize all the FIFA windows. And that was why we arranged quality-friendly matches with countries that we know are above Nigeria in FIFA ranking. It is not about the result. It is about seeing the players. We are incapacitated in our ability to play friendly matches and prepare anytime we want, because we are guided by FIFA regulations. You can only play friendly matches and prepare within the FIFA windows. And that was why when we were planning for the Dr. Aisha Buhari's Cup, we make sure that we use it within the FIFA window. And it was meant to prepare us for the African Women Championship qualifier. And so we actually don't work behind schedule. All our plannings are apt and straight to the point. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Let me, at this point, appreciate the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports Development for gracing this State House media briefing. Okay, the microphone. Sorry for the quality of production on our stationary microphones. To get better. We want to thank the Minister. On this very, very busy day in the presidency, he has obliged us by coming. In the morning, the President received participants of Course 43 for National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies. That event lasted for 2.5 hours. But the Minister waited a bit, and we started shortly behind time, and he has delivered. In about 30 minutes, again, the American Secretary of State is going to be here at the presidency. So it's a very, very busy day, but we are glad that the minister has come and he has delivered. My appeal to our friends in the media is to please do justice to all that he has given us. Not just one-off story, there are many angles we can play the briefing from. Let's do the best for the sake of youth development and for the sake of sports development in the country. Honorable Minister, we thank you, and we hope and pray that when next we ask you to come around, you will oblige us. We want to thank the head of agencies that came with him. We thank Mr. Ismail Abubakar, the permanent secretary in the ministry, Brigadier General Ibrahim, Director General, NYSC, Professor Olawale Morunkola, Director General, National Institute of Sports, Dr. Mohamed Sanusi, General Secretary, NFF, Mr. Ade Soji Eniade, Director General, Citizenship and Leadership Training Center, and Mr. Abayola, the Chief of Staff to the Minister. Thank you all for coming. I also want to appreciate members of the Presidential Communication Team for putting this together. Week after week, a lot of efforts go into putting these briefings together, and we want to thank members of the media, the press, State House press team for turning up each time we ask you to come. I know that a good number of you were at the State House Conference Center for the President's meeting with MIPS, and immediately you rushed there and you are here again. Thank you very, very much. It's all for our country. It's all for the government. It's all for our president. So we want to thank you for being partners in progress. Good afternoon. God bless.